Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about the annual Academy Awards program, where Hollywood's top performers and filmmakers compete for the most cherished award in all of their business, the coveted Oscar. But after this year and recent past, to say this achievement has been cheapened is a bit of an understatement. Gone are the days when the best of the best actually would win, at least most of the time. Sure, this show and other awards programs have been known to be a little political before, but with the recent invasion of social justice warrior politics and left-wing activism and outright president bashing, caused by Trump derangement syndrome of course, well, combine all of this with an award show that's been dying and the viewers have been dwindling for years, and now we can see why it's becoming such a disaster. In fact, as this Hollywood Reporter article goes over, Sunday's award show fell well short of previous ratings lows for the Oscars too, a low previously set in 2018. That year, the telecast averaged 26.5 million viewers and a 6.8 rating in the demo. Sunday was down 11% in viewers and 22% in adults 18 to 49 from prior lows. Not a good look. And after seeing what we've seen and going over the gross politics involved here, well, put that all together with the people losing interest, and now it's pretty clear what's actually going on. Hollywood is struggling to remain relevant, and us, the people, we're reacting poorly to their preachy attitudes and holier-than-thou appearances. But instead of getting better, more down to earth, and giving us, the people, what we want, well, Hollywood and the Academy keep doubling down on their woke SJW bullshit, which includes not only showing up wearing woke outfits, but also giving unnecessarily long and political acceptance speeches, and even worse, many of the most prestigious awards, they're being given to minorities just cuz. In a desperate effort to remain progressive and relevant, that's also causing the awards to lose their value. But before we get to the actual award winners, we do have a pre-show and introduction to talk about, because again, like I said, almost every aspect of this show was infected with liberalism. Even the very clothes these Hollywood hypocrites were wearing. Their wardrobe was getting political almost just as pro-SJW as them. For example, here actress Natalie Portman made waves when she showed up wearing a cape that had female director names embroidered all over it. She apparently felt all these lady directors were snubbed. And I have to admit, I have to give the girl credit here. At least Natalie actually named some names along with her claim. Too many times SJWs have skipped this important step when complaining about things supposedly lacking diversity. Like, if you want women and minorities nominated for Best Director, who else would your nominees even be? Most of the time this never gets addressed, and you're about to figure out why. It's because there aren't any other good nominees, and the people nominated are already really good. This article goes over all the names written on Natalie's cape right here, and it says, the gown featured 8 names in total: Loren Scafaria for Hustlers, Lulu Wang for The Farewell, Greta Gerwig for Little Women, Maddie Diop for Atlantics, Marielle Heller for A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Melina Matsoukas for Queen and Slim, Alma Har'el for Honey Boy, and Celine Sciamma for Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And well, I have to say, I'm not very impressed by these nominees at all yet. These are female directors who are trying to compete with the likes of Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino, but I haven't heard of any of them. And while I'm sure these ladies are fine directors and their work could even be spectacular, but at the same time, I can barely pronounce these names, let alone have I heard of them before. And I'm pretty dialed in with movies and stuff. For example, the Hustlers movie was some film about strippers turning into criminals, inspired by rapper Cardi B nonetheless, who openly admits to doing crimes like this herself in the real world. Yes, Cardi B's a openly confessed criminal, and also she's a Bernie Sanders supporter who can barely speak English, believe it or not. But that's besides the point today. Basically, Hustlers is not your typical Oscar fare, to put it kindly. It's just a girl power movie that glorifies violence and crime, and it's only getting attention because of its women actors. Same goes for Little Women now that I mention it. This is like the 10th film adaptation of Little Women, by the way. That's based on a very well-liked and beloved piece of literature, sure, but it's also an old, dated, and played-out story and not original or creative enough to warrant a response from award shows, like what's being suggested. A Beautiful Day is the only other movie I've even heard of here, obviously because that's the one where Tom Hanks plays Mr. Rogers. But regardless, it's of course not all about what I have and haven't heard of here, but I am pretty in touch with this kind of pop culture stuff, especially movies, which is one of my favorite mediums. But if I'm wrong, you guys can let me know in the comments. If you guys heard of or seen any of these films or directors, let me know if they're actually good. But to me, I think most of us can see they're only getting attention here because they're women directors, and they obviously don't deserve to be nominated up against people like Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino. And this artificial importance being put on these lady directors is besides the point when it comes to movies and making them well and whether or not they deserve nominations or awards. It shouldn't matter what gender the director is, it should matter how good the picture is. And basically, if your main argument is these people should be nominated because of their gender or skin color, then you look just as lost, misguided, and wrong as Natalie Portman was this past weekend. And by the way, Natalie has since been exposed as an even bigger hypocrite because of this too. Upon seeing this virtue signaling outfit of hers at the Oscars, many started to rightly point out the fact that Portman owns and operates a movie production company herself. And of the 11 movies her company has or is producing, guess how many female directors Natalie actually hired? Only one, and it was herself, believe it or not. You really can't make this kind of BS up. Apparently Portman wants to support female directors in show only. She only wants to give them lip service, not jobs. Because when it comes time for her to hire people, Natalie's clearly looking elsewhere, or worse, she's only looking to hire herself. If Natalie really cared about this issue though, she would actually go one step further and not hire herself, but give her own directing gigs to other females who need the chances more. Natalie Portman is already world famous, filthy rich, established, and secure, and she's already won her awards and Oscar too, so if you really want to empower women, Nat, empower them yourself and step down and give away your own space and put your money where your mouth is, so to speak. But we all know leftists would never do that because they go by the strict rule of do as I say, not as I do. Or to sum it up more succinctly, they're big hypocrites, and they have no qualms demanding others do something they will not practice themselves. Next, after Natalie's woke dress got past the red carpet, we saw another showstopper there when they rolled out this gay black dude who likes to wear dresses too. And this guy on the left wore a big flashy dress like this last year too, by the way. And this time he's also accompanied by the likes of Regina King in the middle of this picture here, who's also known to be woke as hell, by the way. Then on the right, there's Billie Eilish. Not sure why this teenage singer and up-and-comer is at a movie award show, and she's also wearing a sweatsuit with kitty cat claws on her hands too, but hey, welcome to current year. Kids have green hair now and long fingernails, and men wear dresses too. And believe it or not, this is just the left-wing silliness only getting started. But I do think it's worth pointing out this intro red carpet stuff first, because now that we see how people are coming into this award show and what they're wearing, we can definitely understand why the actual content and the winners got so out of hand. Just look at this lead into it. Then when the show finally started, things began with a self-proclaimed queer black woman singing the theme song to Mr. Rogers, literally blackwashing the role previously played by an elderly white man for generations. Then this intro girl with the large poofy hairdo, she sat front row center for the rest of the award show, and she's featured on camera in audience reactions very prominently. And that's not even mentioning the fact that her hairdo is probably blocking the view of 2 or 3 other rows behind her. Poor guys. Then one of the earliest awards of the night was when Brad Pitt won Best Supporting Actor for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This was his first personal Oscar too, and I have to admit it was pretty much deserved, and I couldn't be happier for the guy initially. I've loved his work for years, and Once Upon was an excellent movie and one of my favorites from last year. In fact, I consider every win that Once Upon a Time won and Joker got this year to be big wins for us and our side. But when those guys start to open their mouths at their accepted speeches and spew all kinds of nonsense, well, that's when things go downhill fast. As you might have already heard, Brad Pitt now infamously made his acceptance speech here all about politics when he said, "They told me I have 45 seconds to speak. That's 45 more seconds than what John Bolton got last week." This, of course, is a not so subtle reference to the impeachment trial that happened last week in the House and Senate, in which Trump was acquitted and found not guilty of all accusations. Hooray, hoo-ah, we won. Great job, you guys, we did it. But apparently some liberals like Brad Pitt think if John Bolton testified, things would have ended differently. They wouldn't, but also what Braddy Poo doesn't realize here is that Congress could have already called Bolton in to speak if they really wanted to, but they didn't. They botched this whole thing up because Trump's not guilty. And really the left is just bringing up BS like this because they're sore losers. And also, Brad Pitt is starting a trend I noticed this year where when the straight white males won awards like this, they almost always had to do something extra woke or pro-liberal as a way to try and compensate for that. More on that trend later when we get to the Best Actor award. But next, we gotta talk about the Best Documentary winner first though. First, take a look at these 2 bald-headed filmmakers who won the award for their Netflix original documentary called American Factory. Now, this whole section gets way more biased and progressive than you might think, so stay with me, guys. First, if you look at the filmmakers again, you can just imagine the kinds of bullshit they might spew, but I don't think you're going to actually believe what they ended up saying. Basically, they're pro-communist and pro-workers and anti-capitalism types, who even went on to quote Karl Marx here, like we're way back in the Cold War or Red Scare times all over again. McCarthyism. Then, to make matters even worse, perhaps the whole reason this documentary won its award is because it was the first film produced by by former President Barack Hussein Obama and his newly founded production company, which also happened to land a juicy and lucrative deal with Netflix. Yep, and the first doc the Obamas got into was an anti-capitalist, pro-communist propaganda pusher. Then they win an Oscar with it to boot? Wow, Hollywood, how predictable and corrupt you've all become. Not sure how I feel about a former president getting into producing Marxist documentaries either, but hey, it doesn't surprise me from Barack. He's not known for making the best choices. Just look at his wife. Next, we gotta talk about one of the bigger and more silly woke problems of the night. A non-English Korean-made movie called Parasite ended up stealing the show somewhat, winning 4 awards, 3 of which going to its director and writer, Bong Joon-ho. Now, this guy is obviously a great filmmaker, I'm not denying that, and he's got some really good skills at writing, directing, and world building and more, but at the same time, I think they might have overdone it when they gave him all these awards so quick, and it was his first year ever nominated too. Obviously, the Academy was trying to be more diverse, and since this Asian movie had a lot of nominations this year, they went wild giving them all the wins they could to try and look woke and down with the minority, so to speak. And if you look at this picture of the director schlepping all his trophies back to the bar after the show, you can really see how silly this all has become. Not even he can take it seriously at this point. That's why he's got these joke pictures of him making the Oscar trophies kiss and stuff, and also him juggling them at the bar afterwards like this picture. And this, in my opinion, cheapens the whole award and the show. And it shows if you have the right message or the right gender or skin color, the awards will flow your way just because of politics and current year SJW BS, regardless of your performance or filmmaking abilities. But on the other end, if you're a straight white male, you can be one of the best for years and you still might not ever even get nominated or win time and time again. Or sometimes you get a pity award later in your life. Kind of like what happened when Brad Pitt just won his first Oscar at 56 years old for Once Upon a Time, which we just went over. Or this is also similar to what happened to Martin Scorsese, who didn't win a Best Director Oscar until The Departed came out in 2007, when Marty was around 65 years old enough to get Social Security checks. Yes, these white guys waited many years and got nominated many times without winning and got their awards later in life and later in their careers. So that made their Oscars actually impactful and more appreciated. But then here comes Bong Joon-ho from Korea out of nowhere, and he lands multiple awards, his first time ever nominated, and well, I think you get the point. Those awards now seem like a joke, and he's not going to appreciate them because he didn't fully earn them. Perhaps one award would have been okay, but giving the movie 3 or 4 is just a bit too much. Lastly, we're going to talk about Joker's actor Joaquin Phoenix winning Best Actor Award. This is another choice and win I can get completely on board with. Joker was a groundbreaking, well-liked, well-performing movie, and Joaquin's performance was phenomenal too. But just like with Brad Pitt, Joaquin Phoenix went on to give some bullshit wannabe woke, self-flagellating acceptance speech. In fact, Joaquin went on a bit of a tear about multiple topics in a somewhat incoherent and rambly 4-minute tirade. Sometimes these actors do much better if they stay on script, if you know what I mean, because I highly doubt Joaquin Phoenix would have wanted to include this weird tangent he had about banning cow milk, especially if he really planned this thing out. That's right, in addition to calling for equality here, which we already have in America by the way, but on top of that, Joaquin Phoenix then went on to rant about cow milk and how it's immoral or wrong or something. Not sure you want to pick a fight with the larger majority of the country who enjoys dairy products though, especially not when you're winning awards. And then to cap things off, Phoenix went on to quote his deceased brother, who of course passed away far too early when he overdosed back in 1993. Regardless of that tragedy though, it combined with this cow stuff and all this pro-equality SJW silliness, and well, to say Joaquin Phoenix's acceptance speech was interesting is putting it kindly to say the least. In the end, I think we can also clearly see why this was the lowest rated Oscar show in history. It's because it was getting woke as hell, and real normal average American viewers are beyond sick of this. This is also why the Super Bowl and many of its ads suffer this year too, and it's why woke ads in general never have worked, and it's also why the recent Birds of Prey movie tanked at the box office as well. Liberals in Hollywood and the media elites, they need to stop preaching to us and stop exposing your own hypocrisy. And also, could you stop trying to shove your liberal politics down our throats? And we could do with less of your degenerate nastiness too. What do you guys think? Did you watch the Oscars this year? Do you think the show is beyond saving? And should a non-English speaking movie win the award for Best Foreign Picture and Best Picture overall? Or should it be one or the other? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button to help support this channel, and we'll see y'all next time.